Hi, Laura Donnelly here from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance. And there's a new location. Cool, huh? It's kind of fun to be able to zip around. But today, this is day 219 of Strange and Interesting Times. Once again, strange and interesting times. And sometimes I have hard days. The things that affect me are the energy and the feelings of the people around me. So by that, I mean actually I started these because I went to the grocery store and people were freaking out and panicking. And I'm like, what's happening? I don't understand, and I told you all this stuff that I got confused and that I used being confused and having this feeling that I had to solve something and understand something when sometimes stuff is just not understandable. I hate that, but it's sometimes the truth. And so then I realized that what it was this fear going all around and people reacting and moving really fast and throwing things in their grocery cart based on fear. And this energy, it's actually catching. One of the things that they say about emergency responders is that if somebody is being electrocuted, the first impulse you have is to go and grab them and pull them away, and you can't. Because if you get even close to that person, because of how electricity is, it will leap from that person and snag you in to the electrical current. Because the electricity is trying to get grounded, and if a human provides the connection between the current and the ground, there you are. You are just the conduit, and it's bad news. So my friend told me this, my friend Jolynn, she told me this because we were talking about when you are a lifeguard, which is what I did early or when I was young, and I still, I don't know. I love swimming. So being a lifeguard seemed to be a natural thing to do. Kept me near the water, improved my swimming skills, kept me out of trouble, gave me something to do. This kid I knew who I taught swimming lessons to, he actually gave me lessons on how to blow my whistle because I was trying to get the people to stop. He said, "That is just not ever going to work, Miss Laura. Give me that whistle. Let me show you how to do that." Okay, get this? This was in the days when you would hand someone your whistle and they could blow it, and then they would hand it back to you, and then you would blow it. And nobody was worried, right? Just telling you, I grew up in that kind of world, and it was awesome. So this little guy, he's probably about 7 or 8. He takes my whistle and he tweets it out really loud. And everybody nearby freezes. I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand how to blow the whistle now. And I did. And then when I had to blow it, of course, you don't blow it all the time because, you don't want to have a false alarm, cry wolf. I hope everybody still knows that story about, there's one story, is Chicken Little running around screaming and yelling, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling," and the sky is not falling. And before too long, nobody will listen to Chicken Little. And then if a hailstorm comes and the Chicken Little is screaming, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling," because the hailstones are falling out of the sky, well, no one goes to take cover because this is just the 50th time that Chicken Little is screaming that the sky is falling, and we aren't going to listen. So that's moving into different things. Fear, the transmittable quality of fear. This is something I don't think growing up in America the way I did, which was really, really safe, is a really safe time in America and a really easy time in terms of resources and access to education. And, not things weren't perfect. All right. Things were not perfect, but it was, I don't know. When I think back about it, things seems pretty magical to me compared to what people are living with now. Yeah. So, but I wasn't around a lot of people who were really, really afraid. Except I've been thinking about this. And my dad died when I was 9. And it was pretty sudden. He fell at work one day. And I think it was 3 days after he fell that he died. But he'd been in the hospital the whole time. And in those days, they didn't let kids into the hospital. And my mom wasn't sure. She wanted us to see my dad in that helpless state. Then they flew him to a big city where there was a hospital, big hospital, and surgeons and things from our little rural place, with the idea that maybe they could do something, but they couldn't, that he hit his head and too much blood had gone into his brain, and they just said that they couldn't fix it. And so then there was my mom, and she had to do everything by herself. She had 2 little kids. She had been running a dance school, and that's what she knew how to do. So that's what she kept doing. And she just kept going. After she died, my brother found a letter, some journal pages that she had written about how she would rather have been able to die when he died, but that she couldn't because she had to take care of my brother and me. And so she just had to do it no matter what. So I think there was a lot of fear. I think it was not acknowledged because it couldn't be acknowledged because we had to go on. So I was talking earlier about electricity and how electricity will jump from one person to another. Fear jumps from one person to another. All of our emotions are transmittable that way, like electricity. And I think people do better with kids. They think they don't want to make the kids afraid. So they try to, well, at least when I was growing up, they tried to moderate their emotions around the kids, not just have them kind of spewing out like a fountain. But lying about your emotions doesn't work either. Because I remember clearly lots of the grown-ups when my dad fell, they say simple things like, oh, well, he fell down at work and he had to go to the hospital, but he's going to be okay. Lie, lie, lie. Now, they did it for all the right reasons. They did it to protect my brother and me. They did it so that we wouldn't become upset. They didn't know what was going to happen. But I knew in my body, I knew I could feel the fear of the adults, and I could understand that I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. I could understand that things were wrong, but I didn't know what was wrong. Then we moved into my grandma's house, and I'm like, grown-up people and their whole family don't move into their grandma's house if something isn't wrong. But we didn't know how to talk about it to each other. And we didn't know how to say, I'm afraid, but it's going to be okay. Now, here we haven't lived through a real war since the Civil War. How terrifying must that have been to have people fighting door to door in your town? And it happened. I mean, I went to Gettysburg battlefield. It's amazing to go to that historic site. And they were fighting from one house to the next house. But when I grew up, we didn't live with that. that wasn't really happening. So we didn't have that level of insecurity and fear. I saw the same thing in Belgium when I traveled through Belgium with my friend Philip. And there, you have to drive slow in Europe so you can really see things. You can see the signs by the road, little historical signs. You can read them from the car because you're going like 50 kilometers an hour is slow compared to here. Really slow. But you'd have a sign, and this was the front on this day, and then this was the front the next day. Then the front moved back here the next day. Then it was here again. They were fighting over inches of dirt. It's pretty scary. Pretty scary. So fear is part of being human. It's always with us. Now, I found this quote today, that fear arises with the threat of harm, either physical, emotional, or psychological, real or imagined. Now, like you take yourself to a horror movie, you can scare the living tar out of yourself. I mean, when I was in college, I went to Jaws, and I sat through the entire movie with my feet on my chair, and I was holding my toes because I was scared. Now, I scared myself willfully by going to that movie, and it was pretty fun. It was fun to be scared because at a certain level, I knew it was a movie, and I knew that when the lights came on, I could put my feet back down, and they would go on the floor, and they would not go in the ocean, and the shark would not bite me. But that is kind of a willful dive into fear. Now, I was talking to a friend today, and thankfully, I live now and not in the cave people times. Those were some really hard times. Those were some, in my opinion, big fear times. Lots of fear. There were lots of things hunting each other, and humans were food for many other things, and therefore we were hunted. And so this was scary. But you couldn't be so scared of what was hunting you that you couldn't go out and gather your food and hunt other things. You just had to be alert. You had to be aware of your environment, kind of a 360 awareness. You had to be at ease in yourself, ready to, in a sudden moment, fight the danger that shows up or flee from the danger that shows up. That freezing thing, which is one response to fear, freezing, that is not so great if something is trying to attack you. Now, up to you. If you're a fast runner, beat feet and get the heck out of there. If you're a better fighter than you are a runner, turn and face the problem. I mean, they even tell you this if you're hiking and you get stalked by a mountain lion, which can still happen, right? In the 21st century, this can still happen to humans. You can be stalked by a wild animal because you are a flesh and bone thing that some animals consider food. But they tell you, turn and face the mountain lion, grab your shirt, lift your arms up, like if you have a jacket on, pull your jacket out so it makes you look bigger. Force your energy at that thing. And I would tell you also cover up your neck, because once I got bit by a dog, and so I always, in an extreme moment of danger, cover up my neck. It's just a habit. So when I got bit by this dog, my own fault, I ran up to a strange dog and threw my arms around its neck like I knew it. It didn't know me. And so I was pretty scared of dogs. I would hear a dog bark and my hair would stand up on the end of my neck, and I would like freak out. Well, sort of freak out. But I had this cousin who was great. And she's like, "What? Are you going to be scared of dogs the whole rest of your life?" I was 7 or 8, she was 8 or 9. We were really little. And I'm like, I don't know. She goes, well, you have your own dog. Are you scared of your dog? I said, well, no, that's my dog. And she said, okay. Now, if a dog comes at us, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. She said, well, how about why don't you climb a tree? You're good at climbing trees. What about that porch over there? What if you ran up on that porch and got up on the railing? I'm like, oh, I could do that. So I started looking around. So all the time, I'm out in different places, walking in neighborhoods, doing things. I'm kind of scoping out what trees can I reach the limbs, bottom limbs on? How high can I, how fast can I climb? How high can I get up? So I have a plan, which is part of the thing about fear. If you have an understanding of the thing that you're afraid of, and you have something you feel like you can do to manage that situation, then you feel like you can work with that fear. So I was able to calm myself down by having what I determined was a safe escape route. But I also assessed what I did wrong, which was to treat this one dog that I didn't know like my dog that I did know. You can't just take this behavior and flip-flop it from one place to another. Each situation is a new situation and requires specific behavior for that situation. Okay, I can handle that. So I learned that. It was kind of a harsh lesson, but hey, those of us who are stubborn need kind of a wake-up lesson. So I got that. I got the idea that I could make different choices. I didn't just have to try and run away from the dog, which I'm not that fast of a runner. I'm a burster, I can sprint, but the distance running at speed, not this person. Not ever was, not ever going to be. But I can climb trees. I could really climb trees good when I was a kid. And I'm fast for a short amount of time. So that's one thing. I think one thing about the COVID situation is that everything is always changing. And as soon as we think, okay, well, if we do this, this will provide a measure of safety and we can go forward with that. Well, no, that's not working. We have to change everything. This isn't working, blah, blah, blah. They freak out. Okay, here's the next thing. We can try this. We'll do this. This provides a measure of safety. We can go forward with this and we can work with this. Boom, then that doesn't work. So the constant upheaval is really, really difficult for the human to deal with. Now, fear is a natural thing. It's a safety thing. It gets us out of trouble. It keeps us alive. It moves us from a bad place to a better place. Constant fear is a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. Like I said, the cave people were living in a really harsh, difficult, challenging, frightening, in my opinion, frightening time. But they couldn't quit. They couldn't just hide in the cave because there were saber-toothed tigers out there that were going to chase them if they went out there. They had to go out. They had to maybe observe, when does a saber-toothed tiger like to hunt? Does he like to hunt at dawn? Does he like to hunt at dusk? Okay, I'm not going to go out hunting food at those 2 times because those are really dangerous times. I'm going to hunt in the middle of the day and I'm going to catch whatever I can catch then because I'm safer then. Safer, right? Not safe. This is the other thing about life. There is no guarantee of safety. There is no guarantee of a number of days that we are allotted, that we know. I mean, maybe there is in the grander scheme of things, like you're born at this time on this place, in this thing with these stars and all of this in alignment, and you have, 5,285 days. Maybe that is somewhere, but we don't know that. We just have to live every day the best we can. Because we do know, as soon as we can sort of think, we do know we're going to die. And so, what needs to happen before we die? Who do we need to say that we love them? Who did we hurt that we need to apologize to? Who could we give a helping hand to that gives them a step up? What are the important things that we can do with the time we have? And what if we treated every day as a precious day because it might be the last day? The Indians, Native Americans, say this is a good day to die. What if every day was a good day to die? Not that you want to die. Not that you want to leave. You would like it to be happy here, growing here, fun, beneficial, full of teaching and learning and building and making. But not hoarding and hiding and angsting and crying. What is that doing for anyone? So how do we change our mind? I was talking to a friend earlier, another friend, good friend, dear friend, and I said, this is like being a mental martial artist. You have to prepare. You have to be ruthless in your observation of your mind and how it wants to work. It is like a wild horse. It wants to run everywhere, in every direction, whenever it wants to. A little bit. You can let it have free rein. Don't you love that word, free rein? That's what that meant. Like give the horse its head, let it go the direction it wants to go. See where it takes you. But when it starts running out of control in a panicked way, some piece of you can, and if you want to, you can practice it, can step in and take hold of the reins again and just say, stop running like crazy. Calm down. Slow down. Maybe we'll even stop and choose the direction we want to go. But to do that really, really, really takes persistence, commitment, dedication, and like I said, a ruthless determination not to let your mind run away. Now, this is not to say you're not going to feel frightened sometimes. You're not going to be angry. You're not going to be frustrated. All of those things happen. But the thing about emotions is emotions are like flashes. They're like a flash flood. They're supposed to rush through you and dissipate. They aren't supposed to get stuck and then just hammer at you. That's partly what we do with stress. Like having a stressful job. Every day you go, every day is more stress. Every day is stress. And you leave the job and you're thinking about the stress. So you take the stress home as stress. And you wake up the next day and you're tired because you didn't sleep well. And so then you start the day behind. And so you have more stress. Okay, so your job is stressful. Don't let the stress run you. You have to run the stress. You might have to rein the stress in. You might have to look at the stress from the point of view of the 12-step program. I got to tell you, the Serenity Prayer is pretty amazing. What do you have control over? Now, I hated Mondays when the mail came. I had this one job. No matter what I had done on Friday to clear the decks, to get everything ready, I go in early on Monday, I get started, everything's going fine, and the mail comes, and there's always some kind of bomb, a demand for a report that I knew nothing about that is due really fast, some kind of bill that has to be paid that somebody knew they bought, but they didn't tell me, so I wasn't prepared to pay that bill with the funds that we had available. Just that stupid, everything is cool. Well, so guess what I did? Finally, the mail came. I appointed somebody else to open it. I didn't stop what I was doing that I was making progress on to open the mail. I had somebody else open the mail. I had them sort it. Now, they weren't perfect at sorting it, but that's fine. Put the most important stuff on top, put the stuff down. And when I got finished with the major project that I had on my list to start for Monday to get done early in the week, when I got enough of that done on Monday, then I would go and look at the mail. And then I had backed off of my intense, and it was me, right? It was me who said, the mail came, I have to open it, I have to deal with it. I did open it. I had somebody else open it. I was dealing with it, but I chose not to let it derail my whole day by how I responded to it. That took me probably about 2 years to come up with that little system. As I said, stubborn and slow. So, fear. Only you can decide if what you are feeling afraid of is real or imagined. And by imagined, I would say also imagined fear is something that happened before and it might happen again. That is kind of imagined fear. That is actually kind of worry. And that's taking something from the past and putting it on the future, whether it belongs on the future or not. It's the same kind of mistake that I made with that dog. It's like, that dog looks like my dog. I'm going to treat that dog like I treat my dog. It looked like an apple, but it wasn't an apple. Whatever the situation was in the past, we think there's a couple of things happening that might be like this, might be similar, and we pop this onto it. Just say, this looks similar. I can feel that it wants to activate my memory of the fear when something like this, not this, because this is a new thing, but something like this happened before. I wonder what's going to happen now. I wonder if I can work with this differently this time than I did this old time. Maybe, maybe not. But at least you didn't just automatically pop the past on the future. So, we have this natural, biological, emotional, and mental system, all these integrated systems that feel fear. And it's just fine. But if we feel the fear, and then like a piano, right? You take a piano and you can hit one note and it has a nice resonant sound. And then, if you have little kids play with your piano and they find the same note and they go ding, 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 you want to just like get off the piano right now. We do that to ourselves by not paying attention to how our mind is working. We get on that one note and we just pound it, pound it, pound it, pound it, pound it, pound it. And this is where you need to exercise this extreme, important, powerful mental discipline. You need to say, I'm hammering this note. What am I doing hammering this note over here? Do I have to keep hammering this note over here? Do I want to keep hammering this note over here? What happens if I slow down the tempo on this note? Does that change anything? Oh, it does. How interesting. It changes. That changes. What if I change it, play another key? What if I play the key next to it? Oh, that's different. That makes a little tune instead of just ding, 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 ding. What if I play the note below it? And suddenly we have shifted what we were previously mentally holding, freezing, like a record stuck, going. We undid that stuck. Doesn't mean the thing that frightened you is gone. Doesn't mean it's not still scary. It just means that you have taken control of your reaction to that. And instead of building your reaction, think of a little kid who's crying and they start to hyperventilate. You know, they wanted something, they didn't get it, and they start to cry and they start to hyperventilate. Then they start crying harder and more. And then they can't catch their breath. Then they scare themselves really bad. It's like that. The brain is like that. And you just need to interrupt that and just get it to slow down a little bit. It takes a lot of power and discipline, but you can do it. If you want to know more about it, just send me a message and I'll be happy to talk to you. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's not about doing it once and being done. It's about every single day. It's like going to the gym for your brain. You don't go to the gym for 5 hours and then not go again for 5 weeks. You'd be better off to go 15 minutes a day for 5 weeks than 5 hours one day and the rest of the 5 weeks off. And that's somehow how we treat our brains. We learn an idea, we think, oh, I got that. But the steady, constant practice that calms your mind, calms your body, calms your heart and your emotions, that's a daily practice. So I ran on, but I hope it was helpful. I was a little distressed today. As all around me, the fear level was creeping up in a really grody way, like quicksand creeping up, not like just water. Just water is thin. This was sticky and gooey and thick. And I had to bring my brain back over and over and over because I want to become upset that it's happening. I understand why it happens and how it happens, but I want to get tripped up in that it shouldn't happen, and it, come back. I just have to come back, get hold of the reins, because there's sometimes I don't know if you've been on a horse, but every once in a while they can do this thing where like jerk the reins out of your hands, and suddenly you're like holding on to the saddle horn, and the reins are just flapping around. That's why I like to tie my reins in a knot, so that when they get jerked out of my hand, they stay on the horse's neck. And after I get calmed down, I can get the reins without having to bend all the way over and pick them up from either side. So I'm going to quit now. I hope that you're doing okay, wherever you are, however you're dealing with this, which seems to be changing. I'm not even going to say ramping up. The news is ramping up about it, but look at multiple sources for your news. Look at multiple sources. And if you hear the same thing from 4 or 5 sources, ask yourself, why is everybody saying the same thing? If you hear a different thing, again, see if somebody else is talking along that same line on that different area. Just try to keep getting a big picture, not a narrow picture. When the mind runs away like a runaway horse, all you can think about is staying in the saddle and trying to get the horse back under control. You can't look at anything else. Your whole focus has been redirected to the moments of panic that are going on. when you can calm down, you can step back, you can get a bigger view. I think that would be a good thing. So I hope it helps. I hope you have a great evening. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Probably tomorrow's Friday. Probably we will just do the cycle, which is a really calming practice that I would share with you. And if you would want to do it every day, you could see what happens. So take care.